Today, I'm going to be making a card for a friend who had a baby. I'm going to use peg stamps, and I thought it'd be so fun to make a pattern of my stamps that matched this dress pattern here. Now the peg stamps I have are floral stamps, and they're not the same as the ones on that dress, but I picked out the 5 that are the closest, and I'm going to mimic that pattern the best I can. Now this little girl's name starts with E, so I'm going to start out by drawing an E on the front of the card as a personal monogram to her. I'm going to trace out the line with my ruler, and normally I would draw very lightly so that the pencil barely shows up, but I'm pushing harder for you so that you can see the lines clearly on the screen. And this line is not perfect by any means, but it's just going to give me an idea where I want to put my stamps. And while I made this card, I was listening to music in a nice quiet house, and I was just so peaceful. Now I'll make the inside of the E. And I'm just eyeing where the middle of the E is here, so hopefully it looks good, but we can adjust it a little if it doesn't. And these lines at this point don't have to be perfect. They're just guidelines, so I have an idea for where I'm going to stamp. So here's our E. It's a little off-centered, so I'm going to stamp just a little over to the left, just a hair over. Okay, I'm going to start with my biggest stamp first. We're going to do this in the Angel Pink Memento color. It's going to be a real pale pink. And we'll just stamp these all over. This is one of the things I just love about the peg stamps. They're so easy to stamp with, they're fast, and you can make whatever design you want every time. Now this registration mark on the side shows you the base of everything. It helps a lot with your stems when we get to our greenery in a minute. But it helps you line this up however you want to as you work. And it's just so simple. Okay, now I'm going to take my brighter pink. It's called Rosebud. And I'm going to add a bright pink flower in the center, because the dress, or the flowers on the dress, had a light pink outside and a bright pink center. And I think it looks really pretty to layer the stamps like this. And as you stamp, you want to turn the peg just a little bit so that the flowers come out a little different each time. And then they're not all exactly the same. So let's add our greenery in now. I'm going to use the new sprout for my greens. Or actually, no, let's go ahead and do our blues first. I'm going to use the Paris Dusk Navy Blue for these little blue flowers. And I'm going to just tuck these in around my pink flowers, wherever they fit. And I'm turning the registration mark each time towards the flower, so they kind of look like they're connected a little bit. But you can place these however you want to. That's part of the fun of peg stamps. And we're not making this perfect. I went a little high up with those last 2 stamps, but we'll just kind of shift it where we want it to go. And now for my green vine, I think I said already, I'm using the color New Sprout. I do want to fill this in with the green almost everywhere it fits, just to add some fullness to it, so that it's not plain in the background, to add a little bit of texture. We don't want too much white area in our E. And it's just so easy with that registration mark to tuck the green in and just stick the stem where I want it. Oh, it's time for our yellow flowers. These are really pretty tiny flowers, a little threesome. And we're going to just sneak these a little bit on top of everything, and it doesn't bother me if it's showing up over in the other colors. The yellow is bright enough to pop, and it looks nice on top of the green. I am trying to keep it off of the pink and blue as much as I can. Oh, it's so pretty. I love how this is turning out. Now I'm going to take my acrylic block, and I hope you can see when I put the yellow on here. But I'm taking just a little bit of the yellow, and I'm using my water brush to add some to the center of the flowers. And my brush is a little too wet. I don't know why. Oh well. So we're just going to dab a tiny bit of yellow in the center of each flower. And that's going to make it fill out nicely. So I'm going to erase my lines. Where I colored my flowers, the pencil got wet and it's not erasing as well as it should. And because it's wet, I actually peeled my paper a little bit. Oh no. Do not erase wet paper. It won't work. And of course, if you're doing this yourself at home, the lines won't be so dark and you'll be able to not even have to erase them if you draw them light enough. But I'll erase the parts in the pink flowers later after it dries all the way. Look how pretty that is. And I thought it'd be fun to go back in with my Stardust gel pen to add a little bit of a shimmer to the card. I think it'll be pretty. This should give it a little bit of a silver glitter. And I don't know how well you can see it on the screen. And this is almost going to be invisible at most angles, but some angles in the light headset, it's just going to shine and show the shape of the E. And I think it just is going to add a little bit of an elegant touch. It's hard to see where my lines are. There we go. Okay, see, it doesn't add a lot. I don't know if you can tell it's there, but it looks really nice. And I'm going to go back in with my pink and put another flower. Oops, I put that over farther than I wanted. It's a bigger flower than I should have used. Oh well, we'll just make it blend in with the design. And we'll do one of the little bright pink flowers. This is just a trial and error card, creating as we go. And I'm going to put one more blue flower. And we'll put one dark flower there to round it out. Oh no, I just used the blue stamp with the yellow ink and got that green flower. They're really similar. Oops. Oh, my little daughter in the background just said, oh no, too. That's funny. And now I'm just going in with the yellow. And I think I'm going to pull out my navy again and try to stamp over that green one just to see if we can hide it again. And I made extra sure I used the right stamp. And let's turn it around and line it up. There we go. Well, now it's a little dark, but it's fine. It's for a baby. She won't notice. I'm going to add one more blue flower at the top. And there we go. There's our E. It's so pretty. I like it. Now for the base of the card, I'm going to stamp this the exact same way that I did the E. So I've sped the video up extra fast to save you a little bit of time as we go. I forgot to tell you that the yellow I'm using is called Dandelion. And I still have some yellow on my acrylic block, so I'm going to grab my brush again and fill in all of the centers to the pink flowers, just like we did before. And now I can take the E that we did earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and finish erasing those pencil lines because my pink flowers have dried, and I should be able to get them off now. And I decided it'd be nice to round the edges of this card. And so I'm just going to use my scissors and eye this first edge. If you don't have an edge like trimmer or a punch to do this, you can actually use your first edge as kind of a stencil. And here I'm cutting with the stencil, or with the edge that I cut off as a stencil, but it was sliding around a little bit. And so I decided to take out my pencil and just trace it. And this will make all four edges come out almost the same. It won't be as perfect as using a punch, but it'll look nice, and it's a quick, easy way to save money and get a nice look still. And there we have it. Now I'm taking my Summer Sky ink and my blending tool, and I'm just going to brush some of this onto the edges to add a little bit of color to the background of my white, so it's not so stark against the edges. And it's not showing up as well as I want it to. So I'm actually going to take my ink and I'm going to, or my ink pad, and I'm going to ink the edges here just to add a little bit more color. There we go. And since the light blue is so pale, I took out my Paris Dusk Navy again, and I'm adding just a little bit over. If you notice that I'm dusting my color on over my card base, I'm doing this on purpose to kind of do two steps at once. I wanted to get a little bit of color on the back of the card, or on the front of the base as well. And so I'm able to get some on my panel and on the card all at one go. And as I was taping down this card, I just kept thinking how nice it would look to have the E on here and have it be a single layer. Let's go ahead and do an E on this card. I'm just going to eye it out without drawing it and see what it looks like just for fun. Let's create in the moment. We're going to use our light pink and add our bright pink centers. And while I was doing that, my memory card got filled up on my camera. So, oh well, you missed me stamping it, but you can see here, did the exact same thing that we did before. And now we're going to go ahead and add in our greens. And then we'll do some little yellow flowers as well. The E is a little higher up than I want, so I'm focusing on adding more of the greens on the bottom of the E, and I'm trying to visually get it to look a little bit lower. Okay, time for a yellow. And look there, I did it again. I used my yellow on my blue flowers. Those two stamps look so similar to me. Well, let's add in our yellow flowers. And I don't think I'm going to be able to hide that green one. So I'm going to take my stamp again, the blue stamp, and add the yellow to get a couple more greenish flowers. And I got a little bit of blue on my pad, but that doesn't bother me a whole lot because it's not going to show up on anything else. It's just a tiny bit. It stains the pad. It doesn't hurt it. And then I still had some yellow on my acrylic block. So we're going to color in those flowers again. And I'm taking my Stardust pen again, tracing the E. This time I'm just doing a single line to add a little bit of shimmer to it like we did before. So there's our card. Now the E that I made earlier, I'm not going to let go to waste. And so we're going to put that on front of another card base. And the dress that I got my pattern idea from has a light blue striped background. So I decided to take some of my blue distressed oxide and my blending brush and create a blue kind of a striped background for our other card front. Now I could have done this with my Momento ink, but the blending brushes that I use for my Momento just don't work well for me. I don't know if it's the size of brush or the type of bristles, but I don't like them. And I find these little paint brushes that I got at Walmart for a couple of bucks work so much better. And since I use them with my distressed oxides, I don't like to mix types of ink. So I'll use one brush for every shade of blue, but I'll use one for distressed oxides and a different one for my dye inks. And I kept bumping the stencil here and it's sliding around. The easiest way to have that not happen is to tape the stencil down. You don't have to, but if you do, it won't slide at all. And so there we go. Let's see what it looks like. And I can clean my stencil off with just a wet wipe, and that'll take all of the ink off. A lot of ink got on the foam mat that I use to stamp with, so I'm going to wipe that off as well. Now we'll add the card front that I already taped earlier, and here are our two cards side by side. And I have these pink Treveni Craft 3mm pearls, and I thought I would stick them onto my card front on the one card. And this is totally optional. I just thought it might add a little extra something to it. So what do you think? I like these a lot. And I decided to add a little bit of yellow since I still had some on my acrylic block to the first card just to make the E look a little bit lower again. And we're adding in a couple more stamps, trying to even it up. Just play until it looks the way you want it to. I just love playing with these peg stamps. They're so much fun. And I'd love to hear which card you like best. And thank you for joining me today as we played with these stamps, and have a great day.